Well, hello, good evening, and welcome. It is Thursday night. It's Thursday, the 3rd of April, as ever was. We're in April. We're in April already, people. And apparently it's spring, although Scotland is not yet aware of that. For as we travelled to Glasgow today, there were many signs that said, "Are you ready for winter?" That was what it said, all the way to Scotland, which was good. We liked that a lot. Because Sav and I we're gonna go to Auburn, because it's closer than you think you do, Sav. We'll not go there. No. This is VT Talk, and tonight I've got two very special guests on. It's a truly international show tonight. In the middle of the three monitors that we have tonight is a young chap by the name of Paddy Costall. Patryk Costall is his full name. Who is a director of Knowledge Action Change. The public face of which, shall we say, is one Jerry Stimson. But Jerry's not available tonight, so Paddy has come along in his stead because we're going to be talking about some rather important stuff. Now, before I even let him speak, I'm going to say this, and I know I'm going to be backed up here. Paddy is an amazing man. He makes things happen, he gets things done, and you have no idea how instrumental he has been over the last 18 months in us getting to the situation where we are today. And I think the situation where we are today is fine. How are you doing, Paddy?
I'm very well, Dave. Thank you very much.
It's all right, and thank you for joining us tonight.
A pleasure.
Good, good, good. A man of many words, Paddy is, as you can tell. He's good. He'd be worth listening to. There's some great information coming from Paddy. And we have another Patryk in tonight as well. This is Patryk Belzak. I hope I've pronounced that correct.
Yeah, quite good.
And Patryk is the EFVI coordinator for Poland, which is, well, you'll find out why it's important a little bit later on. But how are you doing, Patryk? And thank you for coming along.
Well, I'm great, and it is my pleasure to be with you guys. Hello from Poland.
There you go. Hello from Poland. Hello to you too. So those are the two guests, but in the expanded cat house, for it is she, we have the one and only effervescent loveliness and bountiful beautyliciousness that is the one and only Sav. Good evening, Sav. How are you doing?
I'm lucky to be alive. I'm so tired.
Has it been a long day?
It's been a really long day.
And we'll talk a bit about the long day after the titles. It's all going to be good. So, hello, good evening, and welcome to VT Talk. And we're back. Right, now it's been, I would say, an exciting couple of days. Sav and I have been up to Glasgow, where today Ash Scotland had its e-cigarette summit, and there's going to be an awful lot more information on that. I'm pleased to be able to say that Sarah Jakes Twiggled, if you know her that way, was up there representing vapers, and she did an absolutely cracking job. And that's not just me that's saying that, but we're hearing this from a lot of people that were there, including one Martin Dockrell. And the information we have, this is now confirmed, Martin has moved from Ash to Public Health England, and he is the Supremo for tobacco control in there. And you might think, well, what does that mean? Well, Paddy knows Martin, don't you?
I do indeed.
And the fact of the matter is, we heard Martin today listening through doors, because we had to use wine glasses and all kinds of things, getting on his hind legs, and quite honestly, he could have been anybody from the VTTV team. He was so supportive of ecigs. As, it has to be said, was Linda Bold, and we heard exactly the same from Deborah Arnott yesterday morning on Radio 5 Live. So Martin was there, and Martin is full of praise for Sarah. Sarah at the moment is in the air. She's probably landing now at some airport down south, and we'll be driving back to Essex. So unfortunately we can't get her on tonight, but I'm going to try and get her onto the show next week, and we'll get a full report of what went on. However, one of the things that did come out of all of this is that Martin Dockrell is organising, what did he call it?
Summit type thing.
It's a kind of a summit, an ecig summit, on May the 15th, and he's going to want some vapers to go along, and he's asked me to pull some vapers together for that. I haven't got the details yet, but as soon as I have, then we'll be going. And he's very, very keen that Public Health England is very supportive of ecigs, and he wants to see them all over everywhere. So that's all good. That's a very, very quick précis of what went on today. We're hearing in actual fact that people are picking up that what was happening in Scotland was very positive. Although, Paddy, I think you've got a bit more experience of Scotland and ecigs than I have, certainly not being up there. What's your take on everything?
I think that there's a very, very great need to educate people in Scotland about ecigs. When we held a conference there recently, a city health conference in Glasgow in December last year, and it was our intention during that conference to hold a debate and a discussion about the merits and demerits of e-cigarettes during one of the lunchtime sessions. And what prevented us doing that was that some of the people there were very, very worried that during this discussion some of the vapers might actually vape. And might upset the people from public health, who would then not wish to attend the conference. And it all got very, 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 very stressful. So we pulled the whole thing in the end, because I think there was a need to go back to a much more basic approach and actually organise something like they organise today. But I think what they organised today, as your experience and Sav's experience shows, was just so restrictive and, I mean, farcical in a way. You had to be singing the company song before you were actually allowed through the door. And I just think Scotland is a place where there's a lot of work to be done. There needs to be some support for developing vaping organisations up there, because there don't appear to be any strong voices at all. There's that one person that I've come across, is that one lady who, with her husband, runs the ecig company and has had quite a lot of press in the Herald and a few other newspapers up there, you know, massively supporting the public health benefits of e-cigs. But other than that, there is very little. And public health is implacably opposed to e-cigs. The directors of public health in Scotland, who are very powerful because there are so few of them, it's not like the situation in England, they collectively wrote advice and had signed the advice that went round to all of the smoking cessation services, saying that e-cigs shouldn't be recommended. In fact, they shouldn't be discussed. And I think that it's a very, very flawed strategy that they've got, and it needs some attention. And it mustn't be forgotten, in my view, in all of the attention that's being focused on Westminster and Europe at the moment. That Scotland does have its own government. What sort of government that'll be in 12 months' time, something that's at issue. But there needs to be some attention devoted there, because there's 6 million people in Scotland, and a large number of them will be potentially or currently using e-cigarettes.
Yes, I think you've summed it up absolutely bang on. I mean, that's my understanding, and I've got to say the same applies to Wales, as we've seen yesterday.
Absolutely.
And that's just been really strange. But I was taken. I mean, I've got to say that Sav and I got back very late this evening and paddling like mad to try and get the show together and get it out. But I've managed to get a quick look at what's been going on, and I've been quite, I have to say, taken by the level of public support for e-cig users, for vapers. I'm seeing polls where 90% of the public are saying any ban would be silly. and that's a fabulous situation to be in, and long may it last. Have you got anything on that, Sav?
Got a couple of things coming in from chat. Lorraine has said Ash Scotland was very negative on Twitter today. Jester has said, can you please get Public Health England to sort out Public Health Wales then, Dave? Whip It Up has said, so today was an ecig summit without vapors. Fail. Max Drum has said, that's petty regarding Public Health Scotland. Whip It Up's also said, they sound too powerful. And the Morning Star said, what an attitude, bury your head in the sand.
Yes, it's a little unfortunate, but that said, managed to bump into Sheila Duffy and Gerard Hastings and Linda Bald, and all of them appeared to be quite pleased to see us up there, even though there was no invitation to join the merry party and the merry throng. I had quite a conversation with Martin Dockrell, and actually I think it kind of echoes what Jerry was saying, that the steps are slow and there are many to be taken, but we have to keep on plugging away. And I think if Public Health England does take a lead on this, and he assures me they will, then yes, I think we might actually get somewhere. Patryk, does this echo the situation in Poland? What's it like over there for ecigs?
Well, I believe that the thing that Paddy said, the same applies worldwide, I think. We need support of any organizations of vaping, about vaping, and in Poland, actually, everything is against vapors, and we need to do a lot of things to explain people that that ecigs are not that bad, and to make things good.
Indeed, yes, and well, what we'll be talking about later, the Global Forum on Nicotine, might go some way towards helping with that. One of the things that struck me particularly over the last 2 days was the document that was put out by the Royal College of Physicians, co-signed incidentally by Linda Bald herself. Now, those of you that were at the ecig summit last year will remember that Linda was, I'm going to say very anti in actual fact. Would you agree with that, Sav? And you would,
Yes.
Paddy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And yet, that document that she's co-signed with John Britton and Bogdanovich is incredibly supportive and finishes with that sentence that we should be encouraging and supporting the use of ecigs because ecigs save lives. I thought that was telling. And from what we can gather, from what we could hear through the door, and we'll get more information, that was the stance that she was taking today. But that Royal College of Physicians document is now gaining traction and is spreading around. And I'm hearing as well that Cancer Research UK is going to be making a statement. We think in May. We think that will also be supportive, although probably more cautious than what we're hearing so far. And Ash's stance, Ash UK, their stance has been made perfectly plain in what Deborah Arnott said yesterday morning on Radio 5 Live. Now, I'm sorry I can't bring you that. We just haven't had time to pull it together, but I do know that links to all of that kind of stuff have been tweeted here, there and everywhere, and it's well worth a listen. I fell off my chair, I have to say, because this was a prediction that was made to me again by Martin Dockrell, and I think you were probably stood next to me when he did this, Paddy, and he said, don't underestimate how much Deborah Arnott supports ecigs. You will be surprised. You were there, weren't you?
I was there indeed, yes.
And it looks as though yesterday was the prime opportunity for her to shrug off the mantle, if you like, and reply in extremely positive terms. And I thought it was absolutely fabulous. And I'm round of applause for Deborah Arnott for finally coming out and saying what she said. I think it's fabulous. I'm going to throw it across to chat again. As you've probably gathered, Sav and I have been flying about like paper kites, and I'm interested to hear what chat's got to say, because this time I've missed out on a lot, and I kind of want to cover this before we go on to the Polish thing that we're going to get to, because that excites me greatly as well. And there's some new names being added to the list, and you'll see why. So, Sav, what's chat got for us?
Chat, there's a lot of talk about how amazed people are that it's actually even got into the Daily Mail and that they've done a 180 turnaround on it. And Lorraine has just said, finally, regarding Deborah Arnott, it's been well overdue that she spoke out.
Well, yes, I mean, overdue indeed, but I think we've discussed this in all sorts of different places and at all sorts of different times. I think to some degree, and this is by no means meant to be a defence, I think because of the stance that so many people in public health held a year ago, say, which was, in my view, quite anti, and I think you share that view as well, Paddy. It was very difficult for Deborah to go at it quite the way she went at it yesterday and be quite so stertorous, if you like, so positive and vehement in her defence of ecigs as I felt she was yesterday, even though Ash has been constantly saying, go to our website, look at our papers, and it'll tell you our stance, and the stance has always been quite positive. The only real difference between where Ash was and where we were was this whole thing about medregs. That seems to have gone away now.
I think the shift is largely due to scientists suddenly discovering that they are scientists and dropping the ideology. I mean, there are obviously still a few poster children for the ideological opposition to e-cigs. But
the likes of Stan McChapman, you mean?
They're very sane.
Yes.
Yeah. The Gang of Four.
Yeah.
But, I mean, basically, I think that their shift in the way that they're now prepared to talk and actually looking at the evidence as it is enabling people like Deborah to speak with some passion and authority because she's now got the support of the scientific community. There's less equivocation. People are actually saying safer, not and getting away from this whole thing about are they safe. They're getting into the safer language. They're getting into the switching language. They're dropping the quitting. There's an interesting shift taking place. But if I dare to paraphrase Churchill, I think we're at the end of the beginning rather than the beginning of the end. And I think we have to be very, very careful not to overstate where we've got to with all of this. I think it's still going to require a lot of hard yards to be put in terms of drumming home the messages to get the hearts and minds on board. I mean, the Daily Mail's an interesting example because the Daily Mail, a lot of people would say, runs the country. Once we've started getting support there, we've got to hold on to that support. Because the one thing with the press and any other media is they're very fickle. And what we need to do is keep feeding the positive stories. We need to keep feeding the science in and actually keeping the pressure on so that politicians are going to actually have to listen eventually.
That all makes sound sense. Have you? This is one of the reasons I get so tuned into Paddy. You saying that? Have you got any strategies that we as the common man, the vapor, any strategies we can adopt that'll help with that?
I think one of the things I would encourage people to do. I have to say, I'm not a vapor. I'm just somebody who believes that this whole area is something which is such a potential public health gain at nil cost that it would be such a crime not to actually take it. But I think there needs to be a stock take for all of the positions that people hold in different ways, because I think we need to adopt the principle of my enemy's enemy is my friend. And whilst at the present moment there's a lot of debates between the vaping community and industry, I think they do need to be had, but there's a time and a place to have them, and I don't actually think that now is the time to be splitting the opposition to things like the implementation of the TPD and what that could mean, and also in the run-up to the COP6 of the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control in Moscow. We need to have some simple messages about new nicotine products are not tobacco products. Let's take them out of all of these regulations that are dealing with tobacco. Let's treat them in a separate way. Let's treat them as consumer products in most cases. They're not making claims to be health products, so they don't need to be medically regulated. But I think that there's a tremendous capacity for self-destruction within all of this if we're not careful. And I think we just need to be trying to bring everybody together who is actually in support of this at the present moment. That would be a key strategy for me.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think it's kind of, although we seem to have won the skirmish and we seem to be winning hearts and minds, at least locally, this whole framework convention on tobacco control is an entirely different thing, and we touched on that last week and the week before, that the way that the World Health Organization again is working behind closed doors to effectively shaft vapers worldwide for what appears to be ideological reasons, and those are the kinds of reasons that we really can't stomach. And that, I think, is probably a good place to take a break, because when we come back, there is an initiative going ahead. I've punted it a couple of times. It's going to be happening in Warsaw. It's going to be happening in June. And the man that's organising it is sitting over there, and one of the guys that's hosting it is sitting over there. Poland, you see. I love it when a plan comes together. It's all good. So we'll take the adverts. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. And look at the bottom right-hand side, that right-hand side of your screen when you come back. And you might see a little logo that you're going to be seeing a lot of, I hope. Back in a couple of ticks. iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your ecig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv. And we're back live here on VT Talk on vaportrails.tv with myself, Dave Dawn, Sav, as ever, Patryk Belzak in Poland, and Paddy Costall from Knowledge Action Change. Are you in London at the minute?
I am in leafy Wimbledon, Dave, yes.
There you go, leafy Wimbledon. While the adverts were on, we were talking a little bit about what was going on with COP6, and which is the reason that I haven't put the little bug up in the bottom right hand side, because Paddy's just made the point that and it had escaped me, I've got to be honest, that because of the political situation in Russia with the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, that the likelihood is that politicians won't go. You pick it up, Paddy.
There is a distinct possibility that governments will withdraw their politicians from the delegations to go to Moscow because of the sanctions that are being discussed at various levels because of the Russian annexation of the Crimea and the threats to the Ukraine. which means that all of the delegations could potentially just be made up of officials. Now, although officials will be, they'll be mandated to say certain things and vote in certain ways, it does potentially remove the political accountability from the whole thing, which is a bit of a worry.
Yes.
There's not a lot we can do about that, I'm afraid, but it's just something to be mindful of. And it may be something that we might actually get a parliamentary question asked to ask whether the Secretary of State for Health will be attending the COP6.
That might not be a bad idea, but
I think that's probably quite a good idea, just to see how the land lies.
Yes, very much so, very much so. That sounds like a good one. But let's look at what we need to do in order to fully educate people that are likely to be at COP6, the Conference of the Parties, the sixth Conference of the Parties, and that, I think, is where the Global Forum on Nicotine comes in. He said, and it's my right, your left. But there's the logo. The Global Forum on Nicotine in Warsaw in 2014 in June, and I'm gonna hand this over to Paddy first because he's organising, and Patryk, feel free to jump in whenever you want to on this because this is on your home turf. How far are you from Warsaw, where you are, by the way?
About 500 kilometers.
Okay, that's probably the same distance for me when I think about it. Then
it's a big country, Dave.
Yeah. Okay then, Paddy, fill us in. What's happening? What's this all about?
The background to this is that we wanted to try and get away from some of the more restrictive and specific types of events that take place around nicotine, tobacco control, tobacco harm reduction. And what we wanted to do was actually organise something where we could gather together a wide range of people from different disciplines, different places, different points of view, scientists, consumers, academics, politicians, producers, distributors of products, to look at the global state of nicotine, where we are with it today, what the issues are for its the continued use of things like e-cigarettes, what the likely political landscape is going to look like, what the science tells us, what consumers say about what they believe are good and bad products, what forms of standards, regulations, whatever, are needed. And we had a meeting with a number of people in Warsaw. The reason initially for Warsaw is that Knowledge Action Change also has an office in Warsaw. As most people will be aware, we also run the Nicotine Science and Policy website, and that's actually run from Warsaw by one of our colleagues. Warsaw is a strategic location. It's right in the centre of Europe. As Patryk said earlier, it has its own issues and very significant issues with the political atmosphere around e-cigs and their use at the present moment. So it actually could do some good to have the conference there from a Polish perspective. Although I'm sure Patryk could have something to say about that, and it would be good to hear that. What we've done is we've tried to put together. Jerry is at the present moment finalising the actual programme for the event. But I can run through, if it would be helpful, I can run through some of the speakers that we've already got announced, if that would help, Dave.
Well, yes, it will. But I would like to hear Patryk's take on the Global Forum on Nicotine being held in Warsaw. Is that going to help the situation that you currently find, Patryk?
Well, I'd love to say that the forum will be about the nicotine overall. I can speak only from the vapor side. I believe that this forum will be the thing that I'd love to see it as a huge voice, as a voice of scientists, as a voice of vapors, and the voice that will be heard within politicians. And there's one thing that Paddy said that enemies of our enemies are our friends. In Poland, there is quite strange thing. I'm not sure how is it worldwide, but the vendors should join us. And I see that in Poland, the vendors, some of them, the biggest of them maybe, they are looking forward for implementation of TPD in Poland. They are preparing themselves somehow. They don't want to support EFBI. I don't know how. I hope that we'll get something solved over there on the forum.
That's right. Okay. That's a strange situation that the vendors are.
Yes, it is.
I can't quite understand why vendors would want to knuckle down to the TPD as it currently stands. Why aren't they objecting?
I don't know. Maybe they are preparing to go back to generation one. They are making some supplies. I'm not sure how is it working and what's behind it, because it is really strange thing. And yes, it is the way it is.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed then that the Global Forum on Nicotine can actually help some way towards this. It would certainly be useful, it sounds, if vendors were to be there. So who have you got on the speakers list then, Paddy?
If I could just say at the outset, just like the shape of the whole event, to give people an idea. It's on Friday the 27th of June and Saturday the 28th of June. And it's going to be held in the Marriott Hotel, which is right in the city centre. The morning of Friday the 27th of June will be taken up with a series of satellite meetings and workshops, and it will also include a media briefing, which will be delivered in English and in Polish. And we're going to try and get as many media outlets there as we possibly can to get some of the key messages out there so that people start getting interested in the event. The kind of satellite meetings are around things like setting standards for e-cigs. There'll be an EVUN meeting, European Vapers United Network meeting. There'll be a science update and a session on the latest things in research for people who are particularly keen on those kind of issues. And then the afternoon will be given over to the opening session with a keynote speech, the Mike Russell oration, which is obviously a memorial lecture that will be given in memory of one of the pioneers of nicotine research. And we're delighted that Peter Hayek has actually agreed to deliver that lecture. And in fact, Peter began his career in the UK working with Mike Russell, so it's actually quite a nice bit of symmetry there as well. And then we're going to have the first plenary will be a fresh look at alternatives to smoking and the case for reduced risk nicotine products. And we've lined up people in there such as Carl Lund from Norway, who I think it's Norway, who will look at the Scandinavian experience with snus. Jacques Doucet, who will look at e-cigs in Europe and talk about what I mentioned before, the consumer-led public health revolution. We've also got Lynn Dawkins, who will look at nicotine delivery and behavioural aspects of smoking and vaping, and what the key messages from her research on that might be. And then in the evening, there'll be a networking reception and buffet within the area where the conference is taking place. And I think it's worth mentioning that we're looking as well there, Dave, to try and put a special edition of VT
Talk
together for broadcast.
Just to fill everybody in before Paddy goes on with that, we're looking at the possibility, and we're a long way down the road of getting this organised, of doing a live 2-hour broadcast from Poland, and OB, and not on iPhones either, where we'll be interviewing in 1s and 2s and 3s the vast majority of the speakers that will be there. And I've seen the speakers list as it was prior to the show, prior to today, and that excites me. But there's some new additions to the speakers list and the attendees list, isn't there?
There is indeed. I mean, at the moment we have Deborah Arnott has agreed to take part in it. and we're looking at trying to get to get the authors from the commentary piece on the Royal College of Physicians site, John Britt and Linda Bald particularly, to see if they'll come along. And that's that. The invitations have been issued, and we'll see what comes of that. But we've also got Ricardo Pelosa and Konstantinos Varsalinos, as you would expect we would have.
So that's 3 days taken up then.
Indeed, and anybody who upsets me will be chairing that session. We've got, and apologies to Patryk for my pronunciation of these, but we've got Maciek Gonowicz, who's now based at the Roswell Park Cancer Institute in Buffalo, in New York, in USA. But he's somebody who studied and did most of his postdoctoral research at Sosnowiec in Poland, where he worked with another one of our speakers, Professor Andrzej Sobczak. Jerry Stimson might say a few words, I'm sure.
Who?
That man again.
Yeah.
We've got Hazel Mabe, who is from the European United Vapors Network and is very active in the European Free Vaping Initiative. We've also got Robert Mrozinski, who is one of the people who's founded the Polish Vapors Association. Cynthia Cabrera from the Smoke Free Alternative Trade Association in the US. We've got our starry chemic, Miroslav Dvornicek. That's the one. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We've got Delon Human from Health Diplomats, who's been key in actually preparing the ground for this conference. Delon has done an awful lot of back of the scenes work with politicians on this. We have a guy called Leon Kosmida, he's from Sobczak's Institute of Occupational Medicine and Environmental Health, and he's somebody who's actually also going to be spending some time in the UK with us in the near future as part of a scholarship. We have Lou Ritter from the E-Liquid Manufacturing Standards Association in the US. We've got Carl Fagerström from Sweden. Clive Bates.
Never heard of him. Who's he? Who's Clive Bates?
He's another one of those people who create work for me. We've got Rebecca Taylor, who, at least for 3 days after the conference, will still be an MEP. And we have Lars Ramström from the Institute for Tobacco Studies in Sweden, and as I said, Deborah Arnott. And we've also got Charlie Hamshaw-Thomas from E-Lights, who's going to speak. And the sort of sessions we've got on the Saturday will look at overview of scientific evidence on safety, health and addiction. That's the one where we'll have Konstantinos and Ricardo, Carl Fagerström, Maciek Gonowicz and Lars Ramström. And then there'll be a series of parallel sessions around gaps in knowledge about nicotine and a new research agenda. We're trying to get Jean-Francois Etta to help with that one. What works and what doesn't work to help smokers stop inhaling smoke. Regulatory landscapes. What's an agenda for proportionate regulation of nicotine products, and a range of other topics. And then what we're going to finish on, which is probably the key part of the conference, is the regulation of non-combustible nicotine products, national, regional, and international issues. And that, we hope, will be where we can identify what we need to take forward into COP6.
Sounds as though it's going to be... I want to say action-packed, but I don't mean action-packed or feature-packed. It's going to be an information-packed couple of days, is that? Because going through that list of names that you've just read out, there are some world-renowned experts in the field involved in all of that. Patryk, do you think there's much chance that Polish vendors would turn out to this and actually learn something from it?
Yes, I believe that some things will sort out. I think that some of them will be at the GFN and we'll meet there and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the AVI support. And I believe that this is one of the most important things that I, as a paper, I can do at the GFN. And I'm looking forward to it.
I honestly think it's going to be fabulous, and I'm really looking forward to going. Sorry, Paddy.
So I think it's just worth saying as well that there will be a couple of sessions actually in Polish. The cost of doing simultaneous translation is prohibitive for an event this size, but we're going to try and make sure that there are sessions that will be there for people for whom Polish obviously is a first language and English is difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're trying to be as inclusive as we possibly can.
Yes.
All of the information's on the website. All of the things I've just said are on the website and available there. And that is gfn.net.co.
.net. Right.
.co.net, I can't remember.
It's .net.co.
Yeah.
It just came on my mind. I can help you with translating these websites to Polish.
We have people. We've actually got Polish staff working for us at the moment who are doing some translation.
All right.
What I'll do, Patryk, is I'll put you in touch with my colleagues in Warsaw.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll email you and put you in touch with Jagos and Joanna in Warsaw.
All right.
Yeah, and then they can explain what's going on to you.
Okay.
See, this is international cooperation and happening here live in front of your very face. It's fabulous. This, Sav, you look very, very pensive. I assume chat has chat to share.
Chat always has chat to share. I'll start with the one came in quite a while ago. It was from Happy Vape, and he says, Paddy, does that mean that you will be establishing the difference between free-base nicotine as regulated in the CLP and how people are confusing this chemical with what we actually use in our devices?
I'm not a scientist. I don't pretend to have the answer to that. But what I think what we are trying to do is we're trying to look at the principle that people smoke tobacco to get nicotine, but it's the tobacco that does them the harm. And what we want to do is we want to establish that nicotine as a recreational substance is no more harmful than other, and in fact less harmful than a lot of other recreational substances, such as alcohol.
Okay.
I don't answer it, but I mean, I think what we're trying to be is we're trying to be as open as possible to the widest debate that we can have around the subject.
I think that it certainly answers it for me. I mean, because the potential is there to explore those things. The scientists, the real good scientists, will be there, and they'll know the answers to that. So I would imagine that that's likely to crop up, and certainly we can fire that kind of question into the overall mix of people that are there. Back to you, Sav.
Yeah, Vaporkeeper regarding the situation in Poland has said, if you were a company producing only Generation 1 stuff, you might well welcome the TPD. And I Crit My Pants has said, maybe Polish vendors, like others elsewhere, are hedging their bets.
Yeah.
And then moving on to GFN, Lena Maria said, Carl Lund is awesome. Midge Dog has said, awesome lineup, Paddy. Blaze has said, wow, looking forward to that. Liam D. Vapor has said, this all sounds great. Mark Hamburg has said, will there be a presentation summary of all the speakers on GFN like the ecig Summit last year offered?
Oh, that's an interesting point.
Right.
So presentations on the web?
The whole of the main sessions, the plenary sessions of the event will all be filmed. So all of the keynote speeches will be filmed and put on an archive site. All the presentations will be gathered from people and they will be put on the archive site as well. And any other information and documents that we receive as part of it will be put on the archive site. And then that will stay as part of the Global Forum on Nicotine site.
That's going to be an absolutely fabulous resource.
Yeah, Well, we've developed this over the years with a number of conferences. Jerry and I have worked on conferences for the last 10 years, and it's something that we try to do because one of the things that everybody complains about conferences is it's a bit like, they're there today, they're gone tomorrow, and what we want to do is create legacy.
Sounds fabulous.
So, and also what we've got with the cameramen that we've got, we'll dip in and out of the other sessions, and we'll also do some talking heads with people around some specific issues.
So, again, it sounds fabulous. I'm so looking forward to this. Have we got more, Sav?
Yes, there was something that's just come into chat regarding what Happy Vaping said, but there's no way my incredibly tired face is going to be able to get round all of that. But I will copy paste it and I'll pass it on to you after the show. And we can hopefully come back with answers to that maybe next week. Yeah, Lena Marie has also said, are the organisers going to get webcasts going of the speakers, or is it being filmed?
It's being filmed. I have to say that I grew up in this. I grew up in the '60s, and I'm not really technically literate. And we're trying to develop this as we go along. I mean, we've got to the point now where we're filming things, and we may, as Dave said before, we may well be able to try and do an outside broadcast of VT to Team Talk. But in terms of wholesale streaming of it, it's very expensive, and we're not at the point where we can actually do that yet. That is something that's on the agenda to develop for future years.
Yes, and I'm here to attest to how expensive it is, and Sav can tell you that as well. We'd be looking at...
It's exactly the same as the simultaneous translation. You're talking about $100 per person to do simultaneous translation, roughly.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money. And we will try and incorporate that in future events, but it depends on where we can actually source that from.
Indeed. We need to take a quick ad break, so...
I've got one more question, and then I'm done for now.
Okay.
So we'll grab that. Mark Hamburger said, are health organisations from Poland or other countries also invited?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're inviting anybody and everybody and anybody we can think of. We've actually got somebody who's trying to source the various contacts in all of the European health ministries so that we can write to them. We're casting the net very, very wide for this.
Daft question just before we do go to the break, Paddy. I mean, how many people can the venue cater for?
350 comfortably.
That's not a bad number. In fact, that's an excellent number, especially if they're all decision makers.
It would be a very good number to get there because that gives it the kind of critical mass that we can then take forward to the discussions that are going to take place around the implementation of the TPD and also what's going to happen with ends at the COP6 in October in Moscow.
Absolutely, yes. Right, we need to take a quick break because if I don't, I'll get my knuckles wrapped. And when we come back, we'll kind of close it all off, and Sav and I may talk about Auburn because it's closer than you think, isn't it, Sav?
It is, yes.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to part 3 of VT Talk here on the 3rd of April with myself, Dave Dawn, the effervescent loveliness and bountiful beautyliciousness that is the one and only Sav, Paddy Costall and Patryk Belzak in Poland. Now, Patryk, come on, tell us what's actually happening in Poland. You know, there's got to be an upside to all of this.
Yes, there is a bright side of Polish actions. Actually, in Poland, there is over 1 million vapers, which is a huge number. And there is some vendors, I may say, a lot of them, about 20, 30 of them, and most of them are online shops. There are a few people from the forums that are helping us. One of them has prepared the action to print the leaflet, and I've got one of them. This is really beautiful. I'm not sure if you can see it.
Oh, that's nicely put together, yes.
Yeah, and basically it says we don't want to go underground, support EFBI. And here's a Polish domain. It's a quite good idea, efbi.pl, and it directs you straight to the sign page. And we've printed 100,000 of them, so it's a quite huge number. And one of the vendors said that he can give 20,000 of them for free to other vendors. And there's a lot of people involved in that, and there's a lot of vapors involved in EFBI. And actually, it don't go with the numbers. Our numbers are quite embarrassing, but we've got some ideas how to solve it, how to fix it. And here's one vendor who's selling ecigs, and it's I'm not sure, sister company has a call center, and they've declared that they can create a call center, small call center of two people, and they will call to people and ask them to sign EFBI and to join us and to help us. Anyway, I think it's a really brilliant stuff.
Is that so? That there are going to be people sat in an outgoing call centre ringing round members of the public asking them to sign up?
Yes, indeed. And I think that they won't hit straight to the vapors. They will try to make non-vapors support us. And I believe that they will succeed.
That's fabulous. Oh,
Yes,
that's
indeed.
fabulous. Do we know anybody with a
They
call
are doing
centre?
it for free, of course.
That's even better. That makes it super fantabulous and fandabidozy and other made-up words. Do we know anybody with a call centre, Paddy?
No.
Oh well, we can try. We might be able to get somebody. If there's anybody out there with a call centre that fancies doing that.
I do think that's something that would be worth discussing as part of the EVON meeting, to see whether other people can, because these are sort of ideas that need to be thrown out in those kind of meetings, and people then need to try and run with it.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's not too far away, isn't June, but it's not too long from June before we get to November. And that's got to be done. Sorry, Patryk, you were going to say something.
No.
Oh, my mistake. I thought I heard something come through my earphones, but it might just have been me. Or is it you, Sav? Have you got something from chat?
It could have been me. Chat found that amazing. Chat says that's amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I've got to say, that is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, fandabidozy. I love that idea. I think that's great. And I'll put the play out again. If anybody knows anybody with a call centre, and I don't care whether it's in England, France, I mean, India will do. If you've got one and you fancy giving us a couple of operators for a couple of weekends for free and for nothing, I think, yes please, hands out, do that. That's fabulous. Congratulations on that one, Patryk. I think that's fabulous. Absolutely brilliant. We've got 5 minutes to go towards the end. And Sav has just put her hand up. Yes, you may go to the toilet.
I've got a question that came in ages and ages and ages ago.
Okay.
And I promised, it's from Paul XB, and I promised I would ask it before the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll jump in now before we get to the roundup. And he said, a question for Dave. If we come away from the EU, would fighting the likes of the MHRA or whoever it would be in the UK be easier than fighting in Europe?
Oh, thanks for an easy question.
Sorry.
Would it be easier than fighting in Europe? I think there are many people that think because we understand in the UK, we understand the UK system rather better than we do the machinations of the European Parliament, which appears to be extremely Machiavellian and way more complicated than it needs to be. And because we're speaking to elected representatives in their native tongue and in our native tongue, then yes, the logistics, if you like, of actually speaking to people would probably be easier. And certainly now, because of the sea change that we've seen just over the last 2 days, it's all bubbled up to the surface, and the level of public support we've got, I think that would lend itself marvellously towards an engagement that's actually going to be worth having. And that would be brilliant. That would be all well and good. But the thing that's niggling in the back of my mind is that over the last year or so, we've developed contacts with the likes of Jacques Leclerc and the French organisations, EDUS. We've got contacts with friends now in Poland, in Germany, in Spain, in Italy, in Greece. And it's become, I think, a fight that I think it would be better if we could win it together as a group, as an international group, and teaming up with our American friends, our Canadian friends, Australians, worldwide. You know, as vapors, we end up with a much bigger voice, millions upon millions of us out there worldwide making our voices heard, and actually that's got to resonate with the people that are at COP6, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, because it would be all well and good us winning this fabulous victory in the UK, but if that doesn't translate into every other country, eventually what happens in every other country, bans and everything like that, would come down on our heads. That's not a stance I would have taken 3, 4, 5 years ago, I'll freely admit. But over the last year, 15, 18 months, my eyes have been opened to a very large degree by the cooperation that we're seeing between all of these different countries. And that, I have to say, I think it's fabulous. I think it strengthens us. I think it strengthens our cause. And I think it gives governments pause for thought. Because the more successful we are as a major group, then that just has to spread worldwide. What's your take on that, Paddy? Because I saw you were nodding in the background.
I think even a more basic point than that is people travel, and whatever's good for what goes on in England and Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland needs to be what's good for what goes on elsewhere. Because otherwise, you've got it's kind of yeah, as you say, everything happens here, which is fine, and then you go abroad, and then everything changes. And you're right to say that, once you become isolated, you're very much more vulnerable.
Yeah, it would be a lot easier to pick off if we were isolated and on our todd. I mean, that's not to say that I'm a big fan of staying in Europe, because I'm not sure I am. But certainly in terms of vaping,
yeah,
and the vaping cause, I think we have more safety, if you like, in greater numbers. And the more there are of us,
yeah,
the better able we are to fight. Yes, not an easy question to answer, but on balance, while it might be easier to do that, I still do think that we've got to really pull together and make it a worldwide, global attack on the idiocy that comes out of the ideological and almost paranoid thinking of certain people. Well, 4, maybe 5. Anything more, Sav?
No.
Okay, I think I'm going to pull it round, because I did say I'd try and keep it to time, and I'm already 22 seconds over, he said, looking at the studio clock. I'm going to say this, it's been an emotional couple of days, from Wales, the government in Wales proposing something preposterous and bloody stupid, and then being shouted down all over the media and shouted down by the great British and Welsh and Irish and Scottish public with almost one voice, 90% support for ecig users, then all of the good stuff that's been coming out and all of the good optimistic stuff that we're seeing in the media, it's been a couple of days of very, very mixed emotions, and it's going to take me a little while to recover from that. But I'm hoping to recover all the faster for being in the company of like-minded people at the Knees Meet at the New Crown Inn in South Shields on Saturday from 12 o'clock. I am so looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to meeting loads and loads of people I've never met before. It's going to be a fabulous day. I really can't wait for it. And with that, I'm going to give it over to Sav for the last word from chat. You're not escaping that one, kiddo. And then we'll say bye-bye. Sav?
Well, I'm actually going to say chat tonight.
You've gone.
I made my... Oh, me?
No, it's me that's gone.
I'm still here.
Sorry.
Don't confuse me.
Carry on.
Okay. Chat have made my life very, very simple tonight. And it wasn't their intention because they knew I was tired and they wanted to harass me. But they've made it so simple tonight because they have sat absolutely glued to every word that has been said on tonight's show. And they have just been so good. So my last word tonight goes to chat for making my life so much easier tonight. Thanks very much.
Was that schmooze?
Oh, it could have been.
Because I was accused of being a schmooze last night. Don't ask.
Sure. Yeah.
Me?
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Never going to happen, is it? If you want to know the full story, you'll have to come on Saturday because I daren't broadcast it.
I imagine.
You're not. I'm not going to go there. I need to say big thank yous to Patryk Belzak for joining us from Poland. It's our first Polish guest from Poland, actually in Poland on the show. Thank you so much, Patryk. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person in June. I hope we shall.
And I'm looking forward to it. It was my pleasure to be with you guys today.
No, it's really. Thank you so much. And to Paddy Costall, who I'll say you've been an inspiration to me for the last God knows how long, bonny lad.
You need to get out more, Dave.
Yeah, you're probably right, but even so, I'm still going to say you are. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Paddy.
It's been a pleasure. A pleasure to speak to Patryk as well.
Indeed, so yes. And as per usual, to my right-hand woman in the world of vaping and e-cigs, to Sav, thank you so much for nearly clocking that woman last night for us.
Oh, Sarah was better than me.
Yeah, if you want to know more about that, you'll have to see us on Saturday.
Yeah.
But the biggest thanks of all, obviously, go to you, our audience. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, until we see you next time, vape on, vape hard, and don't let the bastards grind you down. Till we see you next time from all of us here. Good night, take care of yourselves and be lucky. See you Saturday. Bye.